Hey there. This is part two of a two-part episode. Feeling a little lost in the dark? Head back to part one and find your way back. Enjoy the show.
All right, so we get to chapter 15 then, and this is the dismissal because, like we just said, it's like, this is all my fault. I'm sorry.
Oh, that was
I
good.
mean, this is all my fault. I
You're
used
too
to love
good.
doing, and I told you I got a little demon in me. And so of course she's gonna get fired. So this is a quick chapter. Chapter 15 is called the dismissal. So winter is coming. It's very cold out, so we know we're getting
Hello,
close to all the
Game of Thrones.
killings.
We're getting closer to Christmas.
Which is when, we know that's when all the killings are going to happen.
We know everyone's going to die, but
Uh-huh.
why and how?
We don't know yet. And so then Mrs. Pounds is coming, Mr. Pounds is going, because wherever Mrs. Pounds goes, they're like opposing magnets that it's like you can never bring them closer together. They're totally avoiding one another. Fred is then brought in by Mrs. Pounds. And now I realize that the reason that she's, Mrs. Pounds says, I'm coming, and Mr. Pounds says, I'm going, is because Mrs. Pounds is gonna fire Winifred, and Mr. Pounds doesn't want to be there also when it happens. At least I think that's what's happening. But then she
I
says,
thought
but
that was because of Andrew, because he was having an issue. They were coordinating.
it might be,
Anyway,
but
it doesn't matter.
whatever it is.
Everyone's treating him with kid gloves right now.
But anyway, so, Mrs. Pounds fires Winifred, but then she goes, but not until after Christmas. I need you to help me with Drusilla. She's like, but that'll give you, and I do appreciate this because employers don't always do this for you, but I'm going to let you know ahead of time so you can find something else. Okay. I'm not just going to kick you out. Fair.
Right.
Point for Mrs. Pounds. But what I do love is that when she says, you're fired, but until after Christmas, the first thing that Winifred does is look over and she sees a displaced stair rod. And she obviously wants to use that against Mrs. Pounds and bash her brains in. And the first thing she says is, I must not. This shan't be like the other times. And you're like, oh my God, woman.
How many times have you done these things? Oh my God. I cannot wait to get to what's about to come. Speaking of that.
I can't wait to find out what you're thinking of. So then we finally get. I'm sorry?
Babies.
Oh, right. Okay, we're going to get to this. So we finally get to her father's letters, the ones her mother kept hidden. She reads them even though she knows them all by heart at this point. She's read them so many times. The letters in which her father urges her mother to kill their illegitimate child, which we talked a lot about the mother trying to kill the kid in the first episode. Winifred, the mother's trying to kill her with a butter knife, for example, which I think is just dumb, which I also think shows her, I was unfairly saying that maybe Winifred's mother was a psychopath too. I don't believe that's true anymore. I just kind of like the idea of a mother-daughter killing duo, but that aside, so that's really where I was going with that. It was wishful thinking. But now you're wondering, is she trying to kill her for her own protection? We've got that added layer now because he's like, kill her or I will do it. Because he says, do not contact me again. I will kill you. I will kill her. Kill her, they say over and over and over again, which is why I'm like, are the Pound serial killers? Sounds just like but maybe they're just rich.
Right. I think it's just a threat, it's a threat. And it seems like Winifred's mom was a very formidable woman. Like, I don't think she was someone to be taken lightly. So maybe she fell into the weakness of saying, okay, let me just, this relationship isn't going anywhere. But I think she also knows Winifred is her best evidence. It's her best revenge that she's alive. I don't know. I still stand by. I don't know if she loves Winifred, but I think she is the insurance. That's why she keeps the letters. That's why she has her.
I buy this.
But
I totally agree.
I also think that's why she was never indulged as a child with love. She's that mark of like, you're a reminder.
You're my scarlet letter.
Girl that I once knew. Yeah. And there's a hatred, not a lingering of like, oh my God, I love you because of your, who you remind me of. It's like, ugh.
Right.
Yeah. The hatred, revenge.
Yeah. And yeah, there's that. And God, I hope we find out more about her mother. But if we don't, I see another spinoff on the works. So I'm like, I want to know more about this. That's the thing about. I think that's what I love about the Gothic tradition. It always feels unfinished. You always want to know more, like I said earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it ends with her saying, "I inhale the old letters, yearning for a discernible fragrance. I lick them, lick my father's blood." And I'm like, wait. I'm like, what's going on here? Lick my father's blood. Did he write it in blood, or did she already kill her father and she knows that this is her family and it's splattered with her blood,
No, I think she cut herself.
or she cut herself? And it's deliciously ambiguous, and I love it. And you can't take anything Winifred says at face value, because you're just like, or is this a metaphor? It could be just be a metaphor. I have no idea. Did she hurt herself? It's like
I
with
think
all
she
good.
cuts herself because
She
she
cut
doesn't
herself.
feel anything. That's
Right.
that's my envisioning. And then don't forget the boar's crest. That is the pound's crest
Mm-hmm. All
in
right.
gold embossed on the letter. So again, whether Mr.
Which is why she
Pounds
came here, because she's following the clues to her father's
is
whatever.
following the clues. Now, is that Mr. Pounds or is that Mr. Pounds' father? I don't know. We don't
Because
know
in the first
at this
episode, we didn't
point.
talk about this, but remember when she's walking through the manor and they're pointing out all the portraits, and she stops by a portrait. Drusilla's like, "Oh, that's my grandfather. He liked children, especially the company of boys." And like, there's that Andrew thing. There's that Andrew thing. He
Oh,
says it.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Interesting.
that brings us to chapter 16, containing matter of a surprising kind. So Mrs. Pound is having
Oh
afternoon tea
boy. Can I
with
ask
her
you
friend.
before you do this summary,
Yes.
I want to know how you reacted to reading this chapter.
I'm ashamed to say.
Were you surprised?
No,
Not even a little bit?
no,
Really? Okay, even with what she did to like
no.
the
I was
switch.
waiting for it to happen.
No, but the switch, like
Well,
to
here's the
reconcile,
reason why
like,
I
because
wasn't.
this chapter is a comedy. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like the subject
it's
matter is
not.
dark, but the bait and switch is something you would see on Friends or
So
Seinfeld of like, you know what I mean?
the reason I'm not surprised is because I saw. Do you remember Outer Limits, that TV show?
Yeah,
That okay. There was
yeah.
an Outer Limits when they revived it in the early 2000s with Katherine Heigl, which was basically this. So I will talk about that in just a second. So I'm going to give this a quick summary so I can get to this. So basically, she's having tea with all the friends, and
Mrs. Pounds is having
I'm
tea.
sorry, yes. So Mrs. Pounds is having afternoon with all her friends, and it's a great scene in which we see how these women are just so catty. Like, for those of you who watch the Real Housewives franchise, you know what we're talking about. They're your friends, but they're not your friends. They're backstabbing. We meet Mrs. Fancy, who, whew, delicious. I can't wait for
Hey,
her to die.
fancy.
Yeah, how fancy. And then we have Mrs. Marigold, which I love these characters. What I love is what she does very quickly with very little. And so you
Yes.
can tell that Mrs. Fancy is the leader of the bunch. She is Regina George, and they're all some iteration of Gretchen Wieners and Katie and the girl who uses her tits to know what the weather is like currently in the moment, Amy Siegfried. So like these are like it's the trope, right? It's the Heathers. We have that. And so they come with their children, and one of them is this little baby prince, right? Which I thought was a hilarious scene because Mrs. Fancy goes, "Bring me Duchess." And Gretchen Wieners, in the guise of Mrs. Pounds, trying to get good with Mrs. Fancy, goes, "A lovely name for a lovely child." And she realizes she makes a mistake when Mrs. Fancy just looks at her and goes, "Excuse me? Duchess is the name of the carriage. My son's name is William Ponce Ebenezer, yada, yada, yada." And you're just like, oh my God, of course it is. And it's like this chubby, fat baby. And like
With
they're
a
all playing
pinky ring.
with a pinky ring, a signet ring, a
I
signet ring.
was dead.
But we know
That
this
the
because if
baby was like 4 months old or something like that with a
look,
pinky ring.
watch the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. There's that one episode in season 1 where one of the housewives throws a $60,000 fourth birthday for her daughter. And the whole time the daughter's like, I don't like this. She's crying on camera. She's like, I don't want to leave. And it's that, right? It's like, this is all for the women. The signet ring is for the women, not for the baby, obviously. And
Right. It's just
and it's
ridiculous.
stupid. And all of these women are like going around the baby carriage and they're like, oh, goody, 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 goo. But they don't know how to be with the baby. One person touches the baby and then goes, because they've never held a baby in
Yes, I
their life.
love it. It says they're unaccustomed as they are to rearing of babies. How many pregnancies has Mrs. Pounds had? Like 10,
12.
12?
Mhm. And I bet
12.
you she's never held one of them, right? And so the baby starts fussing, and Winifred is like, chubby baby. And all she sees is, mutton. And she's like, I'll take the baby. And so she takes the baby away to the nursery, and the women stay behind. And then she decides,
And I think she was actually trying to make herself useful here because she was going to
yes,
take it to the nurse
right.
and
But
they were already outside. So,
that's right. That's right. Thank you. And so she's stuck alone with this fussy baby. And so she takes laudanum. And I think she's trying to calm herself down
yes.
in order to like not kill because she's trying to be good. But in a very we brought up train spotting. In a very train spotting moment, I think she just got a little too high because laudanum, for those of you guys who don't know, is basically 10% opium. It's basically the equivalent of like 1% of morphine. I looked this shit up. So
I
she
looked it up
takes
too.
this she takes this laudanum, and then all of a sudden the baby, robed in fur and lace and sporting the minuscule of signet rings on its pinky, purses its lips at me disapprovingly from inside its many layers of chin. Your mother doesn't love you. It drawls. This is so train spotting.
Okay, can I
Your
tell you that like babies though, like I felt very judged by babies. I
babies
don't know
do
what it
judge.
is, but even the ones that are like, I don't know, it's something about them. Like they can give you these looks and it's like, oh, you're literally cursing at me right now. Even though you
Hmm.
can't talk, you just murmur. It's a crazy thing. I just wanted to mention that laudanum you were talking about. They called Mother's Friend. They
Yes.
would dose their kids because if we remember, Winifred was in a foster care situation. Crazy talking about this. He was in a foster care situation where the woman was drugging the children, basically
Hmm.
killing them after she got paid the money to keep them. And
That's
the
right.
only reason that Winifred was alive is because her mom actually was on time with her payments and kept paying. But she still got the laudanum,
Yeah.
which could have killed her, but
Yeah. And when, as a girl who was raised by a daddy who would rub whiskey on my gums when I was teething, there was things were very different back in the day. And so I was wondering if at first when she picked up the laudanum, if she was going to give it to the baby to calm the baby down, and then she just swigs it. But either
that's what
way,
I thought was going to happen. I was
right?
like, oh, for
Um,
yourself. Got it.
but in a very like train spotting moment, the baby goes, "Your mother doesn't love you." It drawls in the accent of the monarchy. "My mother's dead," I reply. "Isn't she?" "She is." And so the fact that she's like, "Wait, is my mother dead?" "Yes, she is. She is high as balls." And then she goes, "Mother perished in a burst of flames when the Reverend set fire to their bed while suffering a bout of delirium tremens." And you're like, okay, I want to know more about that. And also for our audience, a delirium tremens is when someone is going through withdrawal of alcohol. And so they start getting very confused very quickly and they can get very violent. But anyway, all that remained of her were her teeth, grinning in a pile of charred bones. But even that, did she? Is like, well, did she fake her own death? Like, are we gonna get a sequel? I'm gonna get a sequel. But anyway, your father doesn't love you either, the baby says, his voice rich and deep, spittle flecking his plump lower lip. Well, he doesn't know me sufficiently yet, which adds credence to she thinks Mr. Pounds is her father. Um, Only heirs are worthy of their father's love. Forgive my accent, I suck at accents. I am my father's heir, I say, striving for conviction. I am his eldest. I carry his blood. You don't even carry his name, The baby replies, "You're but a trollop's daughter." Twat, he adds. I whip out my father's razor and I slit William Ebenezer Poncy Fancy's throat, severing the carotid artery, which spurts, as if oblivious to gravity, a stream of blood into my mouth.
And then
I
she says,
love children.
but then she was like, apparently, if you do this to a child, they die. You're like, oh my God. But that is all of her anxiety, all of her fears
Mhm.
bubbling up. The laudanum really kind of opened her like a clamshell, like it opened her up to where we know. This is what I was talking about at the beginning. There is an agenda. She's dealt with her mother. I think that's done and buried. Her mom haunts her, her rules, her voice, her ideas. But what she desires is her father and his love and acknowledgement.
Yeah.
And that's what she's here for.
So I think
This
you're right. You're right.
baby.
You got me. You got me. It's not her brother. It's her father. But I do love the way this chapter ends, and then we'll get to the next two chapters. She's trying to figure out how to hide this, right? And
Yeah, he just murdered a newborn
yeah, and
in the home where there's carpet and like brick.
everything. And so she's like, what do I do? She comes to like, this sobers her up real quick. You can't maintain, like, apparently you can't maintain a high when you've just committed murder. So she sobers up real quick and she's like, what do I do? And so she runs out. She goes to a poor farmer's. She sees a distracted older sister. She grabs that baby out of the carriage and then brings it back and switches their clothes, right? And she says, there's a little blood on the clothes, but I'm sure they'll explain it away because I have found that when faced with the inexplicable, humans will find ways of explaining most horrors away. I fit original baby into the empty box that contained Drusilla's new doll. I prepare the parcel, which I will send anonymously in the post to a Benedictine nunnery in Lancashire, with a note that reads, sorry, here's another one. And it just, a couple things here. One, it makes you go, how many times have you done this?
Lives have been done this.
Or two, how many times have other people done this? How
That this
frequent?
is a normal practice.
Exactly. And I do love
God.
that people will explain away things. But she's also being very messy because we find out later the maids are noticing a lot that she's not realizing people are noticing because she's so stuck in her own mind. But back to your
Right.
question of why I wasn't surprised about this. So Katherine Heigl in this Urban Limits episode
Outer limits.
thank you. I was about to say Urban Outfitters, and then I thought I corrected myself. In this Outer Limits episode, so Katherine Heigl in this Outer Limits episode is a futuristic woman who is sent back in time to kill Hitler when Hitler is a baby. And the whole episode is her going back and forth, like, I can't kill a baby. I can't kill a baby. Like, what am I going to do? And then she runs out of time because she almost gets caught. And in a fit of like, I have to kill Hitler, she grabs the baby, who is sickly, by the way, runs to the Danube, and she jumps in with the baby, both dying and killing the baby at the same time in order to prevent Hitler from happening. And the maid who's running after her to stop her from doing this is so afraid of Hitler's father, who's a tyrant, that she pays a gypsy 20 something for her baby. And then that baby becomes Hitler. And so
Wow.
when she killed the baby, my first thought was like, oh, she's gonna have to switch it. Like, she can't get caught yet. We're still too early in the novel.
We still know there's things happening, but we don't know what's going to happen. Like,
exactly.
Exactly. Like, does she blame it on the nurse? Like, how does she get rid of it?
But you can't blame a cut artery on a baby on a nurse, right? So, like, and she knows she's going to get fired. She's already been fired. She's trying to stay. So that's where my mind went. And this is why my kids would always be like, Miss Aguilar, how do you know what's going to happen? I'm like, because I read a lot and I watch a lot of movies, and you have to think, well, what's going to happen next? What's the most logical thing? I'm like, well, she's got to find another baby. And the biggest joke about this whole thing is the fucking mother doesn't even notice. The mother doesn't even notice. She's like, ah! She just takes this baby home.
That brings baby's slimmer, more feisty. You know, it's a different baby. It had a mole. She like scratched off the mole and it has like a little blood.
So here we go. The changelings that we talked about with the fairies. She's just a little fairy changing babies. Exactly. And that brings us to chapter 17 called A Bird's Foot Trefoil. It's like, Okay.
Bird's foot trefoil.
Before we get to chapter 17, though, we get our first illustration since the earlier chapters, which gives us a little bit of a foreshadowing and insight as to what's to come. It's a picture of a young girl crying in bed while a woman sits by her, comforting her. I don't know. But the text below it reads, Drusilla's eyes are closed when she parts her lips and whispers, I know your secret. And that, because I forgot to mention at the end of the last chapter, when she's switching the babies, she bumps into Drusilla. And this plants a seed in Winifred's head that will carry a lot of part 2 of the novel. Winifred now suspects, does Drusilla know? Do I have to kill Drusilla? What do we do from here? Because if Drusilla knows, bitch gotta die. I don't care if I am her older sister.
Or how I'm going to handle it, right? Like,
Yeah.
what does she know? When did she know it? All of those questions. And that gets us to part 2. So in part 2, I'm going to be talking about chapter 17 and 18 together. Chapter 17 starts us off, bird's foot. And I was like, I have no idea what that means.
What a bird's foot trefoil is, yeah.
Yes. I was like, okay, is that some sort of like place? Is that some sort of plant? Ding, 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 ding.
And also, it's on, sorry, really quickly, it is 20 days till Christmas.
It is 20 days till Christmas. So we are leading up. We are definitely getting this rising action and the conflicts are building. And you know what? There is a time clock. I forgot to mention this when you talked about her dismissal earlier. Now she's got to beat the clock. She's already been dismissed. She knows she's only being held till the Christmas celebrations are over. So whatever she's going to do will happen soon. So as Winifred does, she's just creeping about the house at night. She goes into other people's rooms, watches what they do, rearranges furniture, defiles pictures. You know, she's just creeping. It reminded me of the yellow wallpaper about how the woman creeps behind in the walls. Yeah. So I enjoyed that about her. She's, you know, keeping tabs on Andrew and what he's up to. He's treated like a little prince. People are supposed to be quiet around him while he recuperates. And, you know, she just occasions upon Drusilla. And Drusilla, we see as a little bit more observant than the adults around her give her credit for. She kind of calls Winifred out and is like, you know what? Our other governess, like, actually used to teach us things. Like, she actually would play games and teach us things while we played the games. And Winifred flips. She says the following. Your previous governess was a fantastic idiot who didn't have the common sense not to follow strangers into the backs of pubs at night, I say.
Oh, she killed her.
So we are getting to the mystery of what happened to the governess because she just disappeared. And for all they know, they were like, maybe she married somebody, maybe she ran away, whatever.
No, Winifred killed her. I get what you're putting down.
Winifred tells on herself. And that's what I put here, killed her. And then I said, Drusilla's not dumb, but she's made to be. They want to dumb her down. But Drusilla picks up this. And Drusilla sees Winifred. She watches her. She's absorbing her. And this is kind of our first time hearing from Drusilla when she's kind of being raw and authentic rather than kind of succumbing to like her romantic whims and, you know, being like the fussy hoity-toity upper-class child that she's been raised to be. So along with that, Winifred is pouring more into this delusion that Mr. Pounds loves her. I think he's in lust. I think he's trying to bed her, which seems to be his prerogative, right? That's like what he does. But she's thinking more of like, I'm in. I'm part of the family. I think that's how Winifred is interpreting.
I completely agree because I think she doesn't know how to read emotions. That's why Beto keeps driving this home. She doesn't know how to read human reactions. So she's confusing a man's lust for a father's love because baby, he doesn't know you're his daughter. And so she just feels like, of course we're connected. I'm his daughter.
Sure. There's this familiar recognition there, right? So her delusion is being more amplified. So the interesting thing is, too, that he finds a little slip of paper, and this is where we get into the bird foot trefoil. Like, again, had no idea what that is. So Drusilla has drawn a picture of what is a bird foot trefoil, which is a poisonous plant. And How, again, does Winifred know all of this? She's been around death a lot. Her stepfather was a reverend.
Well, she also looks it
So
up. She looks it up in this
she
moment. She's like,
also
let me look
looks it
this
up.
up. Mm-hmm.
And, like, how did she look that up? Were the words written? I thought it was a picture. That's why I was
No,
confused. I was like, did she?
she, to your point, she recognizes the flowers. She knows it's a bird for a bird. What is it?
Birdfoot trefoil.
She knows
I
it's a
looked it up. I
birdfoot.
saw a picture.
Yeah. She knows it's a birdfoot trefoil because she recognizes the plant. But the thing is, during the Victorian era, plants also had hidden meanings. And so like you could send a certain kind of flower and it meant I'm breaking up with you. You could send a certain flower and it meant I am courting you. So she's like,
Right.
okay, I know this is a birdfoot trefoil, but what the hell does it symbolize? That's what she looks up.
And
And
it's poison,
yeah,
right?
it's
So she's
poison.
like, oh shit. Right? What is Drusilla up to? And that just opens up a whole new world for not only Winifred, but for us as a reader. Like, is Winifred misinterpreting because we know she's unreliable? Is she
Yeah.
misinterpreting what this is?
Yeah.
I mean, she could have just been walking the grounds and just drew it. And you know what?
Well,
It's well drawn.
it
She
is. And
actually is talented.
she's very talented. And she also says, for all I know, this is just something that she's inspired by because of her artist bow, and she wants to pursue this.
Right.
And then she has this quote. It says, I wonder if she was merely drawing a flower, if she even did draw it at all, for I threw it in the fire after finding it and cannot now prove, even to myself, if it ever existed. And so this is how unreliable she is. And just to close off this chapter, because now we're like, oh no, you were so into Drusilla. Now you might, you're wondering about her. She just says, Miss Notty begins to imagine all the different ways she could kill the children. And she says, it fascinates me the fact that humans have the capacity to mortally wound one another at will, but for the most part, choose not to.
And that makes me see that she sees herself as not human.
Yes.
I wonder what she sees herself as. Like, does she kind of lean more into that demon aspect or alien? I don't know, but it's really interesting that she says humans
Mm-hmm,
as if she
mm-hmm,
is
mm-hmm.
not a part of the humankind. So moving into chapter 18, get Miss Lamb back in, and oh boy. So I think we become pretty comfortable with the fact Miss Notty is attracted to female.
Yeah, she's lesbian.
But Ms. Lamb, with her gummy mouth, the descriptions are wild. Can I just say the way she describes Miss Lamb, I think would make most people say, I don't know. But she's like aroused by her. So much so that she says, frustrated or relieved or both, I tug on the tapestry bell pull, and upon Miss Lamb's hasty arrival, ask her for a glass of warm milk. And I'm like, oh my God, this reminded me of like lactation, like
Mm-hmm.
suckling. I just, oh God. And, we get more reference the darkness that usually resides inside of her core is now residing somewhere in the nether regions. Like, oh, okay. And then it all goes to hell. It all goes to hell because Winifred felt comfortable. She felt secure. Maybe she went a little too far into her delusions and she makes a pass at Miss Lamb and she is shut down so hard. What did you think about that?
Well, as much as Winifred is a little demon and a murderess, my heart broke for her. God, Michelle, I identify too hard with this woman that terrifies me. So yeah, she's like, she calls her in, and then they're having a really cute moment. And you've got some hints, right, that Miss Lamb is a little afraid of Winifred. She's been hearing stories about her, but
Right.
Miss Lamb is
The
naive.
streets are talking.
Yeah, and by the streets we mean the other house servants, because for the first time we realize that Winifred is not as discreet as she thinks she's being. And so we get this idea that, everybody's been talking about her, but Miss Lamb wants to be her friend. She wants to be nice to her. She's like the good girl. Like, in Carrie, the friend who ends up dying because she gets locked in the gym with everybody else. Or no, the
My God,
teacher.
the teacher.
The teacher.
Yes.
And you're like, not her. She was
His best
nice to you.
friend.
Yeah, she was
Yes.
nice to you, but she kills her anyway because it's her wrath. That to me is Miss Lamb, where like Miss Lamb comes in and she's like so innocent and she can't help herself. She feels so close and attracted at this moment that she reaches out and she bites her earlobe, or not bites it, just like nibbles, right? In a sexual manner. And what breaks my heart is that this
I
woman goes,
know her beautiful ears.
yeah, and she just goes, deviant, deviant. And that word
I
deviant
know.
kills me because we know what she's talking about. And in that moment,
Yeah.
Winifred realizes that she's judging her. And the quote where it said, what all the things that they noticed her doing.
Oh my God, that one is so funny
She
when they're
says,
like, I don't have,
she's like,
I can't explain that.
yeah, she goes, deviant, deviant. Now I see what everybody's been saying about you. And Winifred goes, what who says about me, I ask. And Miss,
Oh my God. Can I please? I have this. Do you want it?
Read it. You go ahead. You read it.
Mrs. Abel says you read books backwards, back to front. Hardly a punishable offense. The scullery maid says she's seen thee squatting over the swans at dawn, naked. And that took me for a pause. I was like, squatting over the swans. So I don't, what it,
And then Winifred
what's
goes,
happening?
and then Winifred goes, I'll admit that one's difficult to explain.
Because what are you doing? I don't
know.
I was like thinking about all the things and I was just like, I just don't
Maybe
know.
it's some coven stuff.
Anyway, so what does she do? She kills Miss Lamb. She does become the sacrificial lamb.
She becomes a sacrificial lamb. And she has a preferred way of killing. She slices her throat open.
Yeah, she breaks a glass, her throat, she drops, and then this is the part where you again have this like absurd moment. Miss Pounds comes in and Miss Lamb is like under the table or under the desk, you know, bleeding out. It's on Miss Winifred's skirts and she's just like, oh, I'm just here, like
I can't wait to watch
see
this
here.
in the movie. So basically she tries to hide the body. Like, so, okay, Mrs. Pounds walks in, like you said, and she's talking about Drusilla's posture. Like, okay, this is what I want to focus on till Christmas, on her posture. She's having this conversation, and the whole time Winifred is like, trying to hide this body. Then she drags the body out.
And the dog's licking the blood
and
off
the dog's
the floor.
licking the blood off the floor.
Yeah, the dog.
She basically drags the body away, and then the dog is like licking the blood behind her, and she's like, "Oh, well, thanks, doggy."
Oh yes, this is fun.
So then chapter 19 comes, and it's basically just a transitional chapter where it's Christmas. We finally got there, and they're going to have a Christmas party, and all the guests are arriving, and Winifred is watching them come in. You know, the house is busy setting up for Christmas. Drusilla is still preparing for, it's kind of her debutante. She's coming out for the first time as an adult at this party, so she has to be very well trained. And for me, it reminded me of the Barbie monologue of like everything that's put on women when women aren't given any power in society, but they have to do so much, while men are given so much power and they can do whatever they want. It says, every day Drusilla is trained by Mrs. Pounds and myself at the dinner table. Christmas will be her first chance to dine in high adult society, which means she is taught not to sniff the food or inspect the food or tentatively
don't smell the food
or tentatively lick the food, or favor one food over another, or eat too much, or eat too little, or apologize to the footman serving the food, or chastise the footman serving the food, or appear too dull, or appear too lively, or voice displeasure with the meal, or with the family, or with anything which may offend or perturb a single guest at the table. And I was like, this sounds so exhausting. Like, I hate it. And it was very...
I never want to, as much as I'd like not want to be in the mud and muck to do this either. Like what is pleasure? What is it all for? You know? Oh
no, it's so restrictive. Like if I have to be born in the 19th century as a rich person, let me be born a man, because this sounds like BS. And we find out that the guests are to stay a fortnight, which means 2 weeks. But then Winifred says, the guests are to stay a fortnight. They were to stay a fortnight. You're like, oh, I see what's coming. So when Miss Notty watches these guests arrive...
Wait, I'm sorry. Do you think she has the plan Or do you think that's like an insert from later? Because if
That's
this is now, what in the world?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know because it has that very Jane Eyre writing as a recollection. But if she dies
Right,
too, how do we know unless she's still alive or is she writing from the afterlife? That's what I meant earlier of like, what is going on here? Is she still alive? Is she not still alive? I don't know what's happening. And that only makes me want to keep reading more. So good job,
right.
Virginia Fato, because I'm intrigued. But she does have this to say about the guests. And I think this is very important. That's the only reason I'm going to read these couple of quotes. She says, guests include Mr. and Mrs. Fancy and their litter. Again, she goes back and forth between
Their
human and
litter.
animal. She calls people beasts. And she says,
Hmm.
other baby. I love she calls him other baby. Other
I
baby.
know.
Other baby seems
Other
to be
baby is
growing.
back.
Yes, other baby seems to be growing an interesting nose, which will be ripe for controversy in a few years. Now, I used a pejorative earlier with the whole Katherine Heigl Hitler thing. I said gypsy. I meant Romani. I apologize. But also, that was the whole thing, was that Hitler was Romani, but he thought he was of the upper class. And I was like, oh, here we go.
Mm.
And then she says, and widowed Mrs. Manners in fine crepe, and her daughter Miss Manners, who is accomplished in everything she does to absurd degrees, but alas, possesses no large fortune, and so is doomed at 25 to remain unmarried forever. She's obviously making commentary on women. You have, and this is true, they had
You
a
can have it
season.
all.
You had,
You
well, the
can
thing,
be everything.
you could be everything and it's not enough because in the Victorian era, there were seasons. This is true. When you came out in your debutante debut as a grown woman, you had 3 seasons of going out and courting in which you could find a husband. And if you did not find the husband in those 3 seasons, you were done for. And then she says, and Marigold, Marigold, my favorite of the lot, her large protruding teeth resting rodential upon her lower lip, her,
Ridiculous.
her extravagantly lashed brown eyes wide and unblinking. She is here with her husband, who evidently loathes her, for his face says as much, as does his habit of removing her hand from his person anytime she touches him. And 2 things came to mind here for me. One, if you watch The Real Housewives of anything, you
I
always
love
have the
that it's
house.
always going to the Real Housewives.
This is
That
so
is
real.
so
I think
funny
she's
to
big.
me.
I wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Fato watches The Real Housewives. This is so Real
I'm
Housewives.
sure she does. I'm sure she,
Maybe she
I want to know
doesn't,
so much about her.
but
There's so
I
much I
think
want to know.
I think that's why I like The Real Housewives, because it reminds me of Victorian society without any of the
Hmm.
real class or nobility. But it's the same thing over and over again. The women who marry for money and whose husbands obviously loathe them, but it's cheaper to keep them than to divorce them. So there we go.
It gives them
And
social status, social cachet. Yeah, I mean,
exactly. It's very connected. I always say it's the most anthropological show you can watch that is also overproduced. But then we have the removing her hand from his person anytime she touches him is very Melania and Trump.
my
Like,
God, I was just about to
very.
say that.
Hmm.
Yes.
And then I love that she ends it with, they all possess the teeth of people who haven't been underfed and or beaten in the faces with Bibles. Because we do find out that her stepfather, the Reverend, used to beat her mother with the very Bible that he would preach at the
Preach
pulpit
with the
with,
next day.
and then look at her and say, you're evil to Winifred. And I'm like,
Right.
interesting. That brings us to the last chapter, chapter
Kettle.
20, which is called Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Fishal's Surprise, or Mr. Fishal's Surprise. Whatever it is, he's very fishy. And the guests are preparing. I'm going to make this fast because we've run so.
You said he's very fishy.
He's
That's
very fishy.
hilarious.
The guests are preparing for dinner, and Miss Abel has reminded Fred that she is to supervise Drusilla, but from afar. Don't let anybody see you, okay? And Fred is like eager to start this because she is monitoring Drusilla. She's like, I need to watch to see if this girl knows anything. When Fred arrives to the dinner party, I love this. She arrives and she's trying to be demure, but then everybody turns to look at her. So she doesn't know what to do. She just goes, eh. Like she she puts up her lion claws and she just
So
puts up her hands
awkward.
and she's so awkward. And
He's
Mrs. Pounds
so awkward.
shoots her a look because she realizes, like, what are you doing, stupid? Don't do that. She's like the nerd who's trying to pass as cool, but she doesn't know how to do
Yeah.
it. And
Like,
it's so
is that somehow
endearing.
you're like, meow? Like, what?
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh my
And
God.
by the way, I have a cousin, one of my favorite cousins who does this. She'll just go, yeah, when she doesn't know what to do. And it's part of the reason I love her. But anyway, they comment on the flower arrangement at the table. And I think they're making fun of her because they're all snickering. Mrs. Pounds, she's like, oh, I'll have my gardener arrange some flowers for you. And then Mr. Pounds goes, oh, yes, the gardener. He seems to have run away with the maid, Miss Lamb. And I was like, oh, looks like she's off the hook for Miss Lamb's disappearance. Mr. Pounds is
Mm-hmm.
either covering for her, or I thought that this was evidence that Mr. Pounds was also killing because the gardener is now disappearing. Whichever it is, good
But
job.
I thought the gardener was flirtatious with someone else in the house. I thought they're at the
Maybe
very beginning. I don't
she just said the
remember.
maid. She just said the maid, but she didn't specify which
Mm.
one. But either way, Mr. Pounds is either covering up for Winifred, or
Mm-hmm.
he has done something too. But like I said, I don't know. So they're served all this food, and Drusilla is trying her darndest to be one of the members of adult society, but she slurps her soup. And Mrs. Pounds shoots a look at Winifred, and Winifred pinches her really hard below, and she jumps. And then Mr. Fischel, just like the organ player earlier, shoots her a lecherous look. And she kind of flirts back. And this is when I was like, okay, Winifred, I think you do care about Drusilla. Because it
He
says she,
does.
yeah, she says she jumps, drawing the attention of Mr. Fischel opposite. He smiles at Drusilla, twirling a fine leek in his fingers. Leeks being very phallic vegetables or roots or whatever they are. Drusilla smiles back, tilting her face sideways in a manner I suppose she considers most seductive. Honestly, Drusilla, I whispered to her, you could stand to smile more at boys your own age, it melted my heart a little bit.
And when has she been introduced to these boys her age, if ever?
Exactly. Exactly. And then Drusilla, still smiling, whispers back, but then how shall I learn? Reader,
I
she doth
love
make a
it.
fair point. Reader, she doth make a fair point. I'm like, okay, I hope these two characters are explored more because I'm loving this. And then I love this because you brought up the yellow wallpaper earlier. And this is when I thought the yellow wallpaper. It says Mr. Fischel arrived without a wife, whom he left in confinement in his ancestral hall. When Mrs. Pounds makes an inquiry into her health, he scoffs at his wife's slight, hysterical tendency. She's been languishing on settees and refusing meals since witnessing the drowning of their youngest son. Oh, of course, get over
And
it
just like,
already.
no big. I literally read, well, I didn't read it with my student, but I had one of my students I tutor with read the yellow wallpaper. And we were talking about this introduction part where it says, we're just ordinary people. So it was very rare for us to have the ancestral home. And you are 10 toes down correct. So yellow wallpaper, like, oh my gosh, yeah, our kid died. Get over it.
Yeah.
No, like there's no empathy from
Well,
anyone.
Michelle, it was only their youngest son. I mean, they have another one.
Right.
He's
The
going to
heir's
inherit
been
everything.
established. Like who cares? It's just so sad. Like
No, it
I
is. And I love the
I
tongue in
grieve
cheek.
that.
Yeah, and I love the tongue in cheek way with which Fatal is dealing with this. And it says, nothing a good rest, devoid of intellectual strain, can't cure, Mr. Pound said brightly, which is the thesis of a yellow wallpaper. And which is based on true quack psychological medicine. Well, the reason women go hysterical is because they know too much. Just devoid them of intellectual. If your wife is bored and going crazy, just give her nothing to do. She'll write herself out. You're just like, are you insane? And then it
Or if your
says,
wife is if your wife is being too independent and thinking too much on her own, it's because she's too stimulated. Take it all away. Let her find joy in her domesticity. Let
ex-
her wane in
and then,
nothingness.
and I love Mrs. Fischel, by the way, because it says Mrs. Fischel said writing energized her. So I took away all her quills, and now she's decreed that she will write in her own blood if she must. And I'm like, good for you, Mrs. Fischel. To which Mr. Pound says, women. theatrical bitches. Like, fuck you. Um,
So crazy.
and so then the
And
guests
yet
are
he
discussed.
can't stop sleeping with them.
Don't get me started. The guests discuss children labor, which then turns to the dowager discussing the pounds, generosity, allowing Fred at the table. Mrs. Pounds dismisses Drusilla and Fred, but Mr. Pounds declares they
Mhm.
cannot leave before the surprise.
Get to the surprise. And I just want
I
to
will,
say,
I
like,
will.
you know how, okay, I just want to tell our listeners, we do not talk about this prior to recording. Like, we might
Mm-mm.
just have like a very like rough, we're going to go through basically like who's going to do a summary or whatever, but we don't share our thoughts. So it's so funny. I just want to show you, like, I do still annotate. Do you see that? It says the yellow wallpaper right there. So when
Yeah,
Claudine is giving those types of references, it just like heartens my heart when we're on the same
so
page, but
insane.
also when you have like different ideas, but we're in sync and understanding. So that just made me happy.
Me too. And it also makes me happy because it tells me we're in the hands of a good author because she knows what she's doing. She's trying to create
She
these
knows
subconscious
what
things.
she's doing. Yes,
So,
absolutely.
they talk about these children, right? And I just have to bring up this quote because this is actually true. So she's talking about the soot. Mrs. Fancy's talking about the soot that's at the foot of her dress and she's complaining about it. And she's like, well, dear, I tried to get the chimney sweep out of the chimney, but he's just stuck. And then she's like,
Oh my
and we
God.
tried to light the fire to try to get him out,
Let's
but
burn this person out of our chimney.
and he couldn't get out. And this is why when I said Edward Gorey, this is so Edward Gorey. And the sad thing is this is actually true. Children
Oh,
used to
yeah.
be chimney sweeps because they were small enough to fit in the chimneys, but they would often get stuck and they would often die there. And the
Hello, Mary
rich
Poppins.
exactly. And the rich would actually be more devastated at the stink than at the loss of the human life. So she's making fun of this. And then at the end of the meal, the guests are taken to the library afterwards for the surprise. And it turns out it's a mummy, but not just any mummy. It's a female mummy, which is very important to this, right? Because Virginia Fato is making a really strong case for the way women are treated in this society. And Mr. Fischel talks about how with great strength of spirit, he sent 80 Arab children to do the work of digging this up. And everybody called him a madman. But when they finally broke through, he, the brave man, crawled through to discover the riches in the tomb. And, she is juxtaposing the way we just use children. I mean, she is really Jonathan Swifting this, like showing how we just
Yeah.
feed children to the machine to kill them all. And then we clutch at our pearls at the fact that Drusilla is slurping her soup. It's really satirical. When they finally reveal the mummy, Winifred describes it as the following. The mummy, face locked in a silent shriek, hands clasped in twisted modesty upon its sternum, trembles slightly as Mr. Fischel continues to undress what I now see as the corpse of a woman, unrolling her pelvis with a particular kind of glee that suggests that he has done this to him before. And it makes me wonder, are you talking about necromancy? I'm not necromancy,
That's
necrophilia?
necrophilia.
Are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about necrophilia here? And
Maybe.
in trying to be so well educated, right? He says, above the doors to each tomb were a series of hieroglyphics and a pair of foxes, the usual guardians of such burial places. And then Winifred correctly says, I believe Mr. Fischel is confusing foxes with jackals, according to my study of Egyptology, which she only studies because she's interested in how to mummify a corpse because it'll
Right,
make them stay
right.
longer.
Because exactly.
So again, she is just going. I was thinking of the mummy right here, where Evie knows more than all these stupid, pompous men, and they just
Yeah.
won't listen to her because she's a woman. But obviously, she wants to learn how to mummify them. And by the way, we forgot to mention this earlier, but one of the things that the Reverend catches her with is with the corpses of all the dead babies. She,
Yeah. And the one lady that's just kind of randomly out there
and
that
I
no
was
one
like,
knows who she is.
I annotated in my book, I wrote, Claudia, Interview with the Vampire. Is that you?
Yes. Because
Um,
she kept those dead babies as dolls. And the
because they're her
guy,
friend.
they're her friends, they're her playthings. Oh,
Yeah.
Crazy.
So anyway, they go on to talk about how the tourists, once they find out what he's discovered, I'm not even sure he's the one who discovered these, flock and steal everything. And she's obviously making commentary on how the British have just stolen everything from everywhere, the colonization, the British Museum. I'm just going to summarize it like this. Everything Eric Killmonger basically said in the opening scene of Black Panther, that's what she's talking about here when she's talking about this mummy, the way that they stripped the Egyptians of their cultural artifacts, they disturbed the dead, and then
Yeah,
they
their
praised
dignity.
themselves. Yeah, and she's like, and they were just waiting for someone superior to come and rescue them from this. And it's like, superior, they built pyramids while your people were still throwing their feces in the river that you drank out of. But also, it reminds me of that mummified paint that she was talking about earlier. Anyway.
Yes, exactly.
And
Just defiling their remains.
Defiling everything. But what I love about it is that he's so excited to show the mummies. And then Mrs. Fancy goes, I've seen better. You're just like, of course you have.
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't.
No, you haven't.
I'm telling you, this is very Real Housewives, okay? This is like someone in Real Housewives would say this at the end. Like, you could show them the greatest day of their life and they'd be like, I've had better, even though they haven't, because they have to. The only way these kind of women like know how to be better is to tear other people down. Anyway,
right. That's
this
the
is the
only
end.
way.
I swear this is the end. So after the guests go to bed, Mr. Pounds knocks on Fred's bedroom door. He takes her to the library and shows her 19th century pornography.
This was wild.
Wild.
And how he's like,
and
dude,
I love it because she is so much more advanced than he. Like, she would make him blush, but he's trying to exert this power over her by making her blush. And I love her response.
He's trying to groom her, be like, well,
he's trying to groom
I measured
her and
your head.
Yeah, he's trying to groom her and shock her, but she is so beyond anything that he can do, which, again, Virginia Fato is trying to be like, women are never surprised by what men do. Men always think that we're surprised, and most of the time, like an orgasm, we're faking it, right? And so Mr. Pounds looks at me meaningfully. He is so close. I can smell his horse's pelt on him. I said what I said. I return his gaze, ready to participate. Ooh, I say with a mixture of curiosity and surprise, which, by the way, she doesn't know what those things are. So I don't know if I can't wait to see how the director, I hope this scene is in there, and I can't wait to see how the director tells her to say, ooh. Anyway, he caresses my cheek with curled finger. I do so enjoy spending time with you, Miss Notty. He says, phrenology twin, he whispers, and he giggles. And that's how the chapter ends. It's wonderful.
So weird.
Oh my God. This was so much fun with you. I don't know how I'm going to edit this down because this is like so long, but it's just because it was just this book. How is this book so short and so quick to read and so fun? And yet there's so much. We never went this long with Wuthering Heights, and there was so much in Wuthering Heights. Like, it's just
more fun.
It's more
I
fun.
don't know.
It's more fun.
It's great.
I'll figure it out. But this was a lot of fun and always fun. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you for giving us something with which we can enjoy our fear, because this is frightful shit. But I'm enjoying it. It is
frightfully enjoyable. And next time we will be reading the final act 3. That's what we're calling it. But we'll be finishing part 2, chapters 20 through 30. So we're excited. Can't wait to see what Fred does. And from here, we'll talk to you next time.
Enjoy your fear, and the best annotations happen after dark. So keep reading, keep annotating in those books, and
Ta-ta for now.
Ta-ta for now. Let's see if your annotations match our annotations the way me and Michelle's annotations always match each other's annotations. Love you guys, and I love you the most. Bye.
Bye. Mwah.
All right. I love you. I'll let you get to your family.
Girl.
See you soon, baby.
Love
Bye.
you. Mwah.
Mwah.